welcome to On Purpose Talk with Stanley.
And Dandy.
And we're going to be talking with you guys. What are we talking about today?
I don't know. But first, we want to thank everybody that's been watching us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, all the feedback we've been getting.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the comments and in person. It's kind of been cool.
Yeah.
Seeing people talk. We just appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to listen to us. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're grateful. That's a very cool thing. The
Totally.
pups are grateful and we are grateful. We have the pups here and like they always come to the couch and I already know we're going to bring them down every time.
I know. So beforehand, I guess we're apologizing for any interruptions.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love this rainy weather today.
Oh, me too.
That was something about waking up in the middle of the night, listening to the rain just kind of made me, I don't know, it wakes me up.
Yeah, it was a nice little surprise.
What does rain do to you?
I don't know. It gets me in the mood to like just chill. And
Yeah.
of course, you can't get out of bed for some reason. It's harder, but I love it.
I like it too.
I love the sound of it. It's very like soothing.
Yeah, something was happening last night. It was getting warm. Mm-hmm. And then, so we slept with the windows open. And although it's been cold, we slept with the windows open because it was hot. Mm-hmm. It was kind of warm last night. And I guess I hadn't been checking the weather because it started raining. And I'm like, oh my God. And then so I know I woke up somewhere in the middle of the night just kind of to hear it. And I remember just smiling and I went back to bed. Like that was, it just made me so happy to hear it. I can hear it like come down and there's something soothing about rain.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know where, if we have anybody that listens to us outside of the U.S., but if it's rainy where you're at, you're probably like, oh, I can't stand it.
Yeah. We're in Arizona.
Yeah, we are in Arizona. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, in our living room. Live from our living, well, not live, but broadcasted from our living room.
Yes.
And we get a lot of sun, so rain is a nice change. Mm-hmm. It sets a nice mood, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the cloudiness and everything that comes along with it. We
Yeah,
like it.
I woke up like super rested. It was kind of nice. Like something about it just soothes me, and just kind of makes me go, okay, cool. I'm cool with that. So makes me happy, and I think
Nice. Yeah.
we had somebody talk to us about somebody sent us a message. They were listening to a podcast, and what did they say? They wanted to know if we can talk about raising a teenage daughter. I don't have any daughters.
No, but we had a teenager.
Yeah, we had a teenager. He's just turned 22 last week. Mm-hmm. So proud of him. The closest I have to a daughter is my little
Puppy girl.
my little puppy girl.
She's so
And I swear she's a wise ass.
and demanding.
And demanding. So every morning at 7 a.m. or 6:30, and depending whatever time she needs to go outside, she'll bark only at me. She doesn't bark at her. She barks at me, and she'll scare the crap out of me. And I'm just like, oh, and it's like, take me out, and it's like demanding, take me out now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, I walk out.
I mean, she doesn't say those words, but her own little
right.
word, like she mumbles weird little things. Is so amazing to hear. Actually, it's kind of funny to hear Stan and her going back and forth in the mornings.
Because we have an actual conversation in a sense. Because I'm not a morning person. And then she wakes me up like super early. It's almost like she knows I'm not a morning person. And like all of a sudden you decided to go pee or poo, that early in the morning. And then why didn't she wake you up? Why did she wake me up?
I don't know.
And then she'll bark in a certain way. That because I've gotten used to it now. Before I used to sleep through it. I used to not hear them at all. Now I'm so used to it. She'll bark a certain way where she doesn't wake you. Mm-hmm. She'll only wake me. And I'm just like, this is terrible.
It's your own communication.
It is. And then sometimes, I kid you not, this dog understands what I'm saying because I'll be like, I was like, no, not now. 30 more minutes. And she'll stop bugging me. And in 30 minutes, she wakes me up. And I'm like, how the heck do you know? This is weird.
That's so funny.
That is the craziest thing. Well, anyways, going back to raising a teenager, we went through. I came in my son's life and yours when he was about 10. So it was like right before the teen, and I think up until that point, what I had witnessed, was I think you had done a pretty good job, up until that point. Only because, there was just a lot of things in him that I noticed, and even communication. I was raised different. I was raised as, smacks and screams and, being told what's up. And sometimes it was explained to me. My parents were, shout out to my parents if they're listening. But, they were, I think they raised us like the way they knew how to raise us. My dad was pretty strict with us. My brother said something to the extent of, my parents raised us as if we were girls. And that made so much sense to me. Because I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like, they acted like if we were, like what a typical Latino parent would act if they had daughters. Like that kind of strictness. Not
Yeah, no, don't scare people.
not like if we were females.
Right.
But as if we were girls in the sense of like the overprotectiveness, the sheltering, you know what I'm saying? That's what I meant. I should have been a little more clear.
More specific, please.
Yeah, more specific. People were like, oh, I understand now. So I think that was a correct analogy, just because, you would have thought that they had daughters by how strict they were, with us. And a lot of it too was, I grew up, in the whole Christian music scene and going to different churches. And so upholding a certain standard of they would call it testimony. And all that means is like, the opinions of others towards you.
Like a righteous lifestyle.
Well, yeah. I mean, but what I'm saying is like what they really meant is they had to uphold the image or the standard that people had for us. And that's like a church word that a lot of people, don't, protect your testimony. And really what you're saying is you care about what other people think and you just want to,
Right.
So, we were very sheltered in that sense. So any little thing that we questioned was always because I said so, and it was never explained. How did you go about? I noticed you and Joy had this beautiful back and forth where you're a type of person that you over communicate, which is not a bad thing, but I love that because I since I didn't have that. That was one of our struggles.
At first, I don't know if you liked it very much, though. I think you were a little bit like, okay, that's way too much information.
Well, right. And also because, I'm like, no, we're parents. Well, why are we supposed to be getting so many information? And even with us, that was just weird. I'm like, I don't have to tell you everything. You know what I'm saying? Right. And there was also a rebellion part of me, and in our marriage, that was weird. That was the thing I had to deal with about myself. It had nothing to do with you.
Right.
You were open book. I didn't know how to be an open book. Like I didn't understand transparency and honesty and all that stuff. And I realized watching you enjoy that was ingrained in me because of my parents.
Upbringing.
Yeah, because my upbringing and everything was hush, be quiet.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to voice. Maybe that's why I over opinionate a lot of times when I put my foot in my mouth, because I'm like, dude, nobody tells me to shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like now I'm like that, but growing up, I wasn't allowed to be like that. What made you realize that detailed, as far as like communicating with him and making sure that he voices his
opinions
feelings and then not saying, no, but I'm the mom, so I don't care what you say.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like those are like, boundaries that sometimes a lot of times we overstep either as parents because we want the kid to do what we want.
Right.
Like what made you realize that?
I think my upbringing, it was pretty much like that too. Like my mom especially, she was super strict and very how can I say? I was very sheltered too. But the thing with my mom is if I did anything that she wanted me to do because that's what she wanted, then she was okay with me. Like, she was happy with me. She would tell me, "Oh, you're such a good daughter. I love you." But the minute I would voice my opinion, forget it. We couldn't get along. Up until not too long ago, my mom and I, we couldn't have a bond because there was just a lot of, misunderstanding, and I can never communicate how I felt. She didn't like it. She would always like have this attitude like, "Oh, you're just a little girl. You don't know what you're saying. I don't care what you're saying. You're going to do what I'm telling you to do." So it was always that. And I think because of that, and I mean, that's, I'll tell a story some other time.
There's a lot. There's a lot to tell.
Yeah, you guys have heard like so far like the good side, but not so good side. But going,
Everybody has a story like that, though.
I agree.
Like there is no perfection in that, and I think this is what makes us who we are.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Right.
Because that's where I'm going.
But the good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm going because of all the bad things that I went through. I remember when I became a mom, which at first I didn't want to become a mom because I was afraid I was going to be the way that my mom was with me, the way she treated me, And I'm like, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be an awful mom. I'm going to be a horrible person. And, you just kind of like that. What else, But then I thought about like my grandma. I thought about how she was with me. I thought about how she was with her kids. And I'm like, no, you know what? That's I can be that way. Like it's fine. I'm going to be, the best that I can be. But I did promise myself before I had my son that first I believe in discipline, but I don't believe in hitting my child. I believe in like that speaking to him in a firm way, but not downplaying him, not putting him down. And so I started making choices way before I even had him, like I needed to heal per se, or I needed to make sure that I was going to be okay to be a mom because I was terrified.
That doesn't mean that you didn't put rules.
No.
Or discipline.
No.
Now, discipline is not negative.
No.
We use that word discipline in when somebody starts working out and they have a regimen, like that routine that they start putting themselves on is called what?
Discipline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when someone, a musician is studying every day, 8 hours a day for like a year, for 2, 3, whatever years they study, that rigorous routine that they've put on themselves is called
discipline.
It's called discipline. So discipline is not a bad thing.
No.
Discipline is I think tightening up.
You need it. We all need it.
It's without discipline is but we use it such a negative thing,
right,
that it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Like it really is a positive thing. I say that because newer parents, I've seen younger parents, with the lack of discipline because their excuse is they love their kids so much.
Right.
And so there's a balance. There's a balance of there's extreme, how many times was there an anger, a command with anger and frustration towards a kid because they didn't do what you wanted them to do. And then there was just like that feud back and forth, like, do this, and then I don't want to, and there's that. So that's the extreme. Like now you're stooping down to the level.
Right.
I never saw you do that with your son. I did witness when you would talk to him firmly, when you would say, no, this is what we're going to do. And I remember that firmness was like everything he needed to like go, okay, mom's serious. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How did you like provide that? Without having to do the scream.
Well, communication, that's always key. But I think this is what helped me. When I made up my mind, like I was telling earlier, like I made up my mind I wasn't gonna do that. I wasn't gonna scream at him. I was just gonna communicate with him. I see things like this. It's a cold and dark world out there sometimes. And I'm like, my son's gonna get enough of that. So why would he need that at home? So I'm going to try to provide for him and create a nice environment for him. Now, I'm not going to shelter him or put him in a bubble to where he doesn't, realize when something bad or something ugly is happening, because I also want him to be self-sufficient, know how to defend himself, and know, what's coming his way. Not be like completely like naive, like, oh, I never got treated that way. No, so I was always open with him about that. I would always explain to him, look, Joy, I'm your mother, you're my son, I love you. I'm going to, my goal in life is to uplift you, to speak life into you, to guide you the best way that I know how. Now, I'm not a perfect mom. I'm not going to have all the answers, but I promise you that if you ask me something, I don't know, I'm going to make research. I'm going to look into it. Like, I'm not going to leave you just hanging. Right. That was my attitude. And I always communication. I know you think that was a little too overwhelming for you, but I've seen how that's come a long way versus when.
Well, because we didn't have it.
Right.
We didn't have that communication with our parents.
With our parents, no.
It was whatever they wanted to do.
We had no saying.
Yeah. It was almost a dictatorship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was.
And so you learn that, and you feel like that's the way you're supposed to be with the kiddos, because that's the only thing you've seen. That's the only way I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Until I saw something different.
Yeah, and I did tell Joey, the minute he started understanding, he started speaking, because my son did start speaking really early on. It was almost scary.
No, it's crazy. The stories I hear from you and from...
and videos. You've seen some. So.
My in-laws and videos, and he's not even one.
Yeah.
He's like months. And he's speaking it's insane. He's speaking very well.
Yeah. So I would tell him at 8 months, I started telling him, Joy, your opinion matters to me. What you feel and how you see things, it's so important to me. It means the world to me. So I'm expecting you to always express that to me. When you're frustrated, when you're angry, and you want to cry, it's okay to cry. Just let it out. And when you're ready to talk to me, we're going to talk.
I love that. I remember you telling me that very early on when we started dating. And that made me think a lot, because as you get older, you want the kids to, it's always this thing. I remember always, shut up, be quiet.
Right.
It's always shut up, be quiet. And so, and I remember, what makes me think every time you say that, I remember when I was a kid, I had my opinions. Mm-hmm. My brain would work, and I would ask questions, and I would wonder. And I would conclude to something, or I would assume something. And if I didn't know concretely what, I would try to ask. Sometimes the questions were well received, sometimes they weren't. Sometimes it was not appropriate a question, and I would get fend off or whatever, But I had an opinion. I had my way of thinking.
Well, because you're your own person.
Right. But so many people don't believe kids
are a person for some reason. They believe they're there and they're
their property, and they could I just tell you what to do. Shut up, get in the corner, get over there. Look good when that's the thing. When there's guests, look good. Then I want you to speak speak up, say hello.
Be polite.
I mean, and politeness has nothing to do with it when you've instilled that in them, and it comes out naturally. Because I remember, I had to be polite with people, and I remember there was times that I didn't feel like being polite, and I had to be. But when it was relaxed, when it wasn't so much pressure, I remember when I was looking forward to a visit or whatever, I'd be super polite. Oh, what do you need? What do you guys need? I'm a little kid. What do you know what I'm saying? So, there is that idea, do you know where your kids' mood are?
Right.
Do you know where their headspace is at?
Right.
Yeah,
and that's important.
So leading up to a teenager, those are the important steps beforehand. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are, but I do think about, sometimes I have friends that tell me they were great when they were little, and then all of a sudden they just completely, they hit their teens and it was a different person. I didn't know who my son or my daughter was,
and that's normal.
Yeah, because they go through stages,
I went through a lot of stages.
I remember another thing that I would do is I read tons and tons of book on child development, on like, just
Not as a teenager, but older.
no, even before I had
Right.
Joy.
You love that subject.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I know. I think you should be a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? She should go back to school, and I think you'd be great at it. That's just me.
Right.
I've
It
told you
does
this
fascinate me, like the
I know you
the
love
studying of the humans and
The mind
the
and-
mind,
yeah,
everything,
I know.
health, our the way we think, everything.
Right.
Yeah, it does fascinate me, but
That's because you love to analyze everything.
that too.
Yeah.
I'm an analyzer. I analyze things and
Everything.
pretty much.
Yeah.
I self-analyze myself too.
Yeah.
I think it's important to do that.
And I think since I've met you, you've been accurate pretty much. It's annoying.
But, I think books sometimes can help you. I know a lot of my friends sometimes they're going through that situation where I don't know what to do, I sometimes think like, what, there's great books out there and, there's so much things that you can do. I think that's one of the things that I remember like really like losing myself in books. I was just very scared too.
Well, and that's a normal thing.
Right.
When you don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Heck, I was scared.
Yeah. I know. And he came to you when he was 10.
I mean, he was 10 years old.
Yeah.
I'd been pretty much a single dude. And all of a sudden I have a wife and a kid. Mm-hmm. And I was scared. I mean, so anything new is just scary. It's just natural. Mm-hmm. And you learn. You go little by little and take it a step at a time. And here comes the teenage years. And the kid decides to back away.
Mm-hmm.
I remember from my experience, I remember like Joy being super talkative with me. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, Stan, this and this. He's like my little buddy. To, yeah, cool. Whatever.
Yeah. It's almost like
I don't care. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No. I mean, that was like the most extent of our conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, what the heck? But I remember you were a little more concerned. Mm-hmm. And I thought back to my days. So I thought back to like even my teenage years. And I remember my mom would say, all you guys say is cool, cool, cool. They'd be like, how's your day? Cool.
Right.
And she'll make it, she'll make it funny. And she was making fun of us, but at the same time, I could tell she was frustrated.
Right.
And it's frustrating, especially I think for moms. From a dude, I can look at that and go, yeah, that's, because eventually it just gets like whatever. Like,
Well, especially because I had developed that with him, like always open communication, like, hey, Joy, how are you? He would tell me everything. Up until like almost at 10, that's when he told me, hey, Mom, I don't need you to come and volunteer anymore. And like my heart was crushed. I was like, what?
yeah, because you were the...
Yeah, I would make up any excuse to be there next to him, hanging out with him.
You would do the costumes for all the plays,
Yes.
or all the presentations.
Yes.
You were always there for anything that the teacher needed. You were that kind of parent. Mm-hmm. And then your son tells you, okay, Mom, you can back off a little bit.
Yeah, he pretty much. And I realized...
and it wasn't even in a bad way. How he told you.
He was
straight out.
Yes, he was straight out and,
But still being cool. Just telling you, Mom,
nice.
it's cool.
Yeah. Like,
You don't have to come no more.
Yes, like that. Mom, you don't have to come anymore.
How was that walk home for you?
Oh, forget it. Forget it. I had to go back home and like...
You know that Jordan meme? The crying Jordan meme? Was that you?
Yeah. But
He's so cute.
I thought about it and I said, he's right. I've always told him, whenever you need space, whenever and then after I used to think like, why would I tell him stuff like that? But I didn't think it was going to come around that soon, but he told me, Mom, I need space and it's okay, Mom. Because then after I didn't leave it alone. I went home and I realized he needed space. He needed that. That's it. He was pretty much telling me, okay, Mom, I got it from here. You don't need to be everywhere I'm at. And yeah, after a while I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's too much. I have to let him be. I need to let him, like, that's it, develop his own, continue developing his own identity. Because that's another thing I want to mention, that I don't know if a lot of parents are aware. I'm sure some are, but I know that I remember reading how important it was from the minute they're born to 5 years old. That's when that's it. They're developing their identity. They're becoming who they're going to be. And that's when you want to feed them like all the good stuff. That's when you want to speak to them, good things. And I used to read tons to Joy. I would buy him books like every weekend. That was like my little thing that I would do. Would go to the mall, get him tons of books. Like, yeah, he liked toys and all that stuff, but I would always like make it an emphasis. Like, books are important. We're gonna learn, and we're gonna and he was excited about learning because of books.
He's still like that.
Yes, he still is.
He loves learning.
Yeah.
I mean, that kid is the opposite of what I was.
And me.
I was they would say in Spanish, I was a burro. It's donkey, but I guess it doesn't really translate
right.
though. I was just as soon as the books would come up, I was like, oh. But I also think, I was so uninterested in anything that wasn't music. There was a couple of topics I did like in school that I did appreciate. I always found it fascinating. But other than that, I was just that dude that would fall asleep in class all the time, and I was getting in trouble. And so seeing him be so excited about school, and hearing how you would make him excited about learning, I mean, that's something that I think your parents have to instill.
Yeah, it's our responsibility. Like, we can't expect our children to be like, oh, can we try and do this today? I mean, you have to put it out there. Like, I didn't know what he was going to like. Really early on, I knew that he was into he was going to be a techie guy because he was into computers and all that. Yeah. But at the same time, I would say well, maybe because it's all new, maybe to him it's like something awesome. But
right.
I never stopped putting other things in front of him. Like, we would do a lot of painting, a lot of finger painting. We would do a lot of museums, feed his brain with so many things. Almost take him on a journey to find out what it is that he wants to do.
Right.
So then he would never be like, I don't know what I want to do. To me, that was so important. I'm like, my child's he's going to find himself. He needs to know who he is, what he's going to want to do. I wanted that for him, especially because I didn't have it, So all those little things that you think it might not help, or sometimes it's like, oh, that's dumb. No, it's not. All those things are so important, and they mean the world to them. Because you're teaching them about hey, let's go on a journey. We're going to find, we're going to learn this. We're going to find out who you are, And as I was doing that with him too, I remember learning a lot about myself too, and that was pretty cool too.
But you putting that man hour, time with them, actually taking the time to explain things.
Yes.
I think that makes a big difference. Now people just shove, electronics in front of their kids.
An iPad.
And I think electronics are a good tool.
Yeah, they can be good.
Very good tool. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, even as you're doing that, if you're trying to educate through technology, the actual time you're putting in, though.
Yeah.
Maybe sit down together and learn about certain things.
Yeah.
And make it, exciting and learn and think, and so that there could be a thought process of back and forth. What do you think about this one? What do you think this is? What, I don't know. Interaction, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just whenever I think about this, how people talk nowadays, I have friends that say, oh, they're going out with somebody, they're seeing somebody and they're communicating, but everything's through Facebook or through texting and through, I'm like, what happened to the human touch? What happened to that?
Human touch is what we like.
You know what I'm saying, though? That is so important. So I feel it's the same thing with our kids. If our kids don't see us hands-on with them,
right?
They start losing that sense of
right.
Everything, my world is here.
It's not about being into this whole thing that technology sucks.
No.
I mean,
no, because it can be a good thing.
We're literally doing a podcast,
right?
Because of technology. But what we're saying is not losing that human interaction.
Yes, that's so important.
That human's FaceTime, the original FaceTime.
Yes.
Not the actual app, but the original FaceTime, one-on-one.
Yeah.
because then you get to understand. I think even kids get to understand and read body language,
Right.
which is something you can't read in the text.
Right. And always have
as many as emojis as you put.
Yeah, and always have that face, like you said, to where you want to face your kid. You want to deal with situations and things like, face to face. I text my son, like,
Yes,
especially when he was,
a lot.
especially when he was, in ASU, he was dorming there, every night. Good night. God bless you. I love you. That was so important to me. But communicating to me in person is more important, of course. Like,
Of course.
I never, if there was an issue, if there was something, not through texting, not at all. I don't believe in that. I believe that, open communication. I want to see you. I want you to see me. I want you to see how I really feel about it. Because sometimes you text and you're like, what is this? Like, which, are you mad? Are you,
Right, right,
So,
right. That's the part that gets lost in translation, I think.
right.
Through text. All right. So what about, like my friend who texted me saying, talk about teenage daughters. I'm assuming we're at the he's at the stage of his life where, either entering to teenage,
Right.
Years or, and it's that scared. Well, you were a daughter, you still are.
Yeah.
And what would you like to have at least know that you had from your parents? Like whether support or something. What is something that you can give as far as like advice to a dad or to a mom who has a teenage daughter or a son?
You as a parent, like, you go to your kids. Don't wait for them to come. Like, take that initiative. And then if you want them to come, make that clear and say, I'm going to be here for when you need me, but be persistent. Like, never stop telling them that. Let them know that you're going to be there. Don't ever give up on them. Don't ever feel like, yes, there was times that I would let Joey be and give him his space, but I knew I was going to annoy him every time I would walk into his room, because at that time, when he became a teenager, okay, Mom, you don't have to come to my room all the time.
Right.
Remember, he would kick me out, and I was like,
yeah,
what the heck?
Sometimes he'd be a little mean about it. But
yeah,
not hardcore mean, but
he was like, Mom, that's it. Like, get out of here. I was like, what the heck did I do?
Yeah, everything you do is wrong.
Yeah, but then I tried to go back to my teenage years, and I said, you know what? You go through that phase where you don't want to deal with no parents. You don't want to be told anything. You don't want to,
I think if every parent would at least talk to their parents. And because everyone always talks about how they were when they were kids, but no one talks about that awkward stage.
Right.
When you become a teenager and you're going through that whole process before becoming an adult, and even as an adult, you still act like a teenager. But that whole idea of everyone would just talk to their parents, how weird they would realize how their kids are being the exact same way they were.
Well, okay, so I remember this too. I remember when I was reading a book, and it was so funny because he was little when I used to read about, when he becomes a teenager and this and that, and I would be like, oh, this is still like long time ago.
Right, because we don't want to see that.
Right, but then I remember something very interesting I read. It talks about when teenagers are going through that stage, like the minute they're around 12 and they're already thinking 13, 14, 15, like, so what happens is that their mind is completely somewhere else now. It's either, like, for instance, with my son, it obviously was for girls. He started thinking about girls. He started thinking about kissing. Shoot, even I'm sure sex came into his mind. A lot of things, a lot of those issues that we don't talk, right? So I remember thinking that the book was talking about they feel like they can't relate to you. So then they're going to try to hide because that's their little thing. And they don't want you to know that they're thinking all those things. They don't want you to, like, even imagine them, because you see them as your baby.
Right.
So they're going to shy away from that. And they're going to completely...
They're taking too long in the bathroom.
Baby. Gosh. But
I like Mexican because she likes to pretend that that doesn't exist.
No, but okay, fine. And I was, you know what? No, that's good you brought it up because I was straight out with him too.
Yeah.
Everything had to come out. And I remember telling him, look, Joy, if you're shying away from me because of all this, and this, and this, and that you're thinking in your head, or that you're starting to wonder, or that you're questioning, that's not new to me.
Right.
Like, once you kind of bring that into the open, it kind of makes him real. He was shocked. He was like looking at me like, what in the world, you know? And I told him I was a teenager too. Dude, just because I'm a girl, don't think that all those things didn't go through my mind, you know? So then I go, don't let that not want to communicate with me. Fine, you don't want to tell me in detail. Maybe I don't want to know in detail either. But, know that I know. Know that I know you're going through that phase. Know that those are issues that sometimes you think they're overwhelming, that you're the only one going through that. It's not so.
Yeah, it's true.
But at least I feel like this. Whenever there's something in you and you bring it out into the light, there's freedom in that. So even if we didn't come, we didn't have a solution per se. The minute you bring anything out into the light, it releases so much.
Well, what you did was you provide comfort in knowing that he's not alone.
Yeah, and he's not a weirdo.
Right. He's not a, because that's a lot of parents will use, you're being so weird.
Right.
You're being so, to start using that negativity because they don't have empathy. So a lot of parents will have empathy with other people's children.
Right.
But no patience, empathy, sympathy, anything with your own kids.
Right.
And that's I wish I had that kind of support. Shoot, I remember. I don't know if you remember it. Do you remember your sex talk? This is the most sex talk I ever had. So I didn't know what sex was. Like I had no idea. I was pretty awake when it came to girls. I like kissing, and that was like my favorite thing. But the first time that sex was introduced was through porn. Some kid brought porn at the school, and that was the first time I ever saw it. And I was like, it's just like, it was gross and weird at the same. I remember I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is like far beyond, because everything I had done up to that point.
Right.
I thought it was already pretty cool.
Right.
But that whole other step, I just thought it was weird. Right. And a lot of questions.
Right.
But it was never explained to me because it was my own peers that showed something like that to me. And I remember we got super in trouble. And so I had a friend of mine that I remember told me what it was. What went into what.
Right.
And so I remember I was like, what? He goes, dude, what? Your dad hasn't told you this? That's exactly what he told me. He goes, you should ask him. So I remember one time it was in the afternoon. My dad was raking in the back. We had a big yard. And he was raking. And I remember, I go, Dad, I was trying to get the courage to ask him. And so eventually I go, Dad, how do you get someone pregnant? I think that was exactly the question I asked. Mm-hmm. And I remember he was raking. And I could tell he did, you get married and then you have kids and that's it. And he goes, he shunned me away. Right. And I remember going because the part that bummed me out was, I don't know if I wanted to know so much more from my dad, but what bummed me out was my friend told me that his dad told him and explained everything to him. And I think I remember wanting in that moment for my dad to explain that to me and be real.
Right.
Because it's a real thing.
Right.
And to this day, I'm still waiting for the conversation.
Yeah. No,
but it's interesting,
Yeah.
I'm assuming too, because I'm older now, and I think of my parents. I go back. I sometimes go back and I think of that house and my parents and the age they were. And they were around my age. When we were kids, when we were around that age that, we were traviesos and rascals, and, I was already singing and traveling and those girls, and, it's just natural.
Right.
And I was very curious. When it came to girls, I was very curious. And I think he was my age. And he was probably just as scared. I think about it in retrospect, and I think about how strict my grandpa was with him. And then, he came to a different country at 22, 23 years old. So then he's like totally new to it,
Right.
and then families from scratch and without the support of anything else but the knowledge of what he had from either church, and how to raise something right,
Right.
and my mom, and both of them figuring it out. You know what I'm saying? So I could just imagine how scared I was, and you kind of fall back to what you know. But one thing I've learned from you that I love is you self-analyze yourself, because you took the scenario of your parents and how they raised you, and you go, what am I going to do better? Some people don't analyze that. What they end up doing is, my parents are strict, but they were the best. So they default to the same verbal language,
Right.
same
Because you try to make an excuse for them, like,
physical.
oh, they didn't know any better.
Right,
They're ignorant.
right.
Yeah.
And because I could fall back into that default, but I go,
Right.
no, that's right. Like I remember feeling like this way. I remember feeling that. What do I have to do? But I've never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? And you can give it any excuse you want. Oh, he's a dude. Guys don't think.
Right.
But it's like, no, maybe I'm just lazy. And I'm not thinking about
Yeah.
it. Because you've made me think about a lot of things. I go, man, damn, I've never thought about that crap.
Yeah.
But why didn't I ever think about that crap? And that's true. Why does it have to be a certain way? Why does it have to be, from a guy's point of view, telling your kids off and telling them what to do and having that kind of fear, like, hey, just with one look, there would be a lot of guys that be like, I just give them one look and they already know. It's like, so you raise them with fear. So why is fear looked upon good on a male figure, especially in Latinos?
Mm-hmm.
And why not think about like, what about if you say one word and they follow you because they love you and they understand and you guys have a comprehension rather than fear? Why is fear so praised? Because we love that authority. We love that power.
Yeah. I think if we would replace fear with a sense of responsibility, I think it would make a big difference. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. Like when I saw this little baby and I realized, wow, he's depending on me, like everything that he's going to learn, everything that even what he's going to eat, everything, like he's counting on me. And that right there, I'm like, I am responsible. I am responsible for this little human life. Like, even if it's tiny, it doesn't mean that it's not important. It's not big. It's huge. Are you kidding me?
It is.
So that sense of responsibility made me understand and made me view things different. Like, I'm like, wow, I have to do my best, because then later on in life, he's going to have to do the same thing, right? But it didn't stop there. Like, I realized since that had an effect on me, I knew that I needed to do that to my son too. Like when he became a teenager and he was already talking to girls and he was already all that stuff. I remember being so clear to him, and I said, look, Joy, obviously I am your mother and I can only advise you, but you are responsible for your own life. If you want to go out and have a little girlfriend and you want to go beyond what you're, capable of really taking, because at 14, 15, you're not ready. You're barely learning how to deal with emotions. You're barely learning, about that love, that puppy love. It's not like, it's new. So to me, to him, he wasn't ready emotionally or anything like that, or even him thinking, I want to know what it, what sex is, or I want to know what that, So I was like, when you're not ready and you get yourself into that, you're going to get in trouble. And then on top of that, you're going to be responsible for the aftermath, the consequences. I'm not going to be responsible for it. You are.
Right.
Let's say, I remember being really straight out with him. Let's say you're curious and you decide to go ahead and do something with your girlfriend. God willing, that doesn't happen. But if she ends up getting pregnant, you're going to be responsible. You're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to find a way to take care of that child. All those things. And I remember him just like looking at me, and I was looking at straight into his eyes, like, I'm not gonna come to your rescue and be like, okay, all right, it's okay, baby. No, you're gonna have to live with that for the rest of your life. So just giving him that sense of responsibility, I think it made him think. Now, did it change things, or did it? Only he knows what that did. But I know that was my job, because that's what helped me. When you are, faced with this, I'm responsible for something. I need to come through, So I wanted him to do the same thing. Like, okay, I have a relationship. I have a girlfriend. Anything that happens with this relationship, I'm responsible, Whether and then not only that, either also be honest, if you ever like don't like the girl you're with, hey, I knew we need to move on. Like, be responsible, because if you think you're ready to have a girlfriend, then let me tell you everything that implies.
Right.
Not just the fun part, not just like the kissing and the right. You have to be very aware, and even when if the day comes that she wants to meet other boys, and that might happen, But of course, you never want that to happen to your son, or, to your children. So you try to like not emphasize too much on that stuff. But, life happens and things like that happen. But you always, you have to be there. You have to make them aware that any relationship requires responsibility, anything like that. So I don't know if that would probably help, but I know that it even helped me when he was little. Because in the end of the day, we are responsible for our own actions.
Yeah. The responsibility of, enamoring, someone else, the heart, and taking care of someone's heart. I mean, that's part of us being human, right?
Yeah.
And we're responsible for people's hearts. In a weird way, like, let me see, go with me. When you say to somebody, I'm your friend. And you're my friend. We use that word lightly, but a friend, a real friend, a true friend, takes care of their friends. And I feel like too many people push away friends, go through friends like if it's their dirty underwear. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And go through them like nothing, like clothes, like food. And I don't think we're teaching the value in the person. And that's important, not just in love relationships, but in friendships. And if you teach that, they'll have good friends for a long time, And so, because you're responsible for someone's heart, are you really going to stab a friend in the back? Is that worth it for your selfish needs? I mean, those are responsibilities you can start putting into a teenage person.
Right.
Yeah. Are you really going to do that? Are you going to stab your friend in the back, or for someone else, for a different friendship, or because that person doesn't have the status that everyone desires?
Yeah, teach them about honesty, integrity,
and
everything
so,
that comes.
I mean, those are all very, very important things.
Yeah.
I mean, this world has way too many people who step over people.
Yeah.
But, we need to be better friends. We need to be better lovers. We need to be better parents. We need to be better kids, better, students, better, whatever.
Yeah.
And what makes us better is, taking responsibility.
Yeah, taking responsibility.
Instilling that in the responsibility. And also, when someone fails, let's say a simple failure, but just fails to the standard that you have, let's help them bring them up,
Don't give up. Yeah.
Don't give up. Let's say Joey would have done totally the opposite of what you expected of him. Then what? You stop loving him? You stop being the mom there?
Never.
So now it's like, okay, what's the next step now? Because there's always consequences to everything.
Right.
What is the next step that we're going to take moving forward? What is the next step that you need to take? How can I encourage you?
Right.
So that you can continue in the path,
Right.
And those are things, too often I think we forget.
Yeah.
Number one, when you say you're for family, that's what being for family is about. Too many people say, "Oh, my family's first," blah 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 blah, but they ignore them. They can care less. Whenever it's in public, or the way it looks in public, to everyone else it looks great. But are you like that at home? Mm-hmm. Are you like that? When no one's seeing your squad,
right?
Are you the same way?
Right.
Are your kids seeing you be the exact same way inside the house with the doors closed and outside when you're as soon as you step out?
Right.
And let me tell you, they're looking at everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're looking at all that. My dad was, he taught me God. He taught me about God. He taught me the Bible. And when it came about to his Christian walk, I never saw my dad cuss. Like ever. I never heard him cuss. I never saw him beat my mom. I never saw him talk down on her. Those are things like, as a Christian man, what the person they saw at church, he was. But one thing I did notice was a lot of people my age thought my dad was cool, and I didn't think he was cool. Mm-hmm. And not because I saw him act different. It's just he didn't talk to me, in conversations like that.
Right.
And this kind of conversations where it mattered to me.
Right.
He wouldn't have those conversations with me. Yeah. He would throw me to the Bible and give me, but he wouldn't give me his experience.
Right.
We have a totally different relationship now.
Right.
And him and I get along so well, and we get along. But in those moments, I remember being angry and frustrated because that's the part. Everyone thinks you're so cool, and I'd be like, no, he's not. Right. I was like, are you talking about,
right?
And not because he was a jerk in that way, but he was just not communicative, when I needed him,
right?
In those sense, And so I feel like it's important.
Yeah.
Everything, it has to be a balance.
Yeah, like don't be embarrassed to talk to your children. Don't, like so many times I was annoying to my son, but it's okay. I'd rather be annoying.
Eventually they're going to know that you knew what you were talking about.
Yeah.
That you weren't coming with malice, but you were coming because, I know for a teenager, it's like, it's hard to think your parents are there.
Yeah.
It's hard. In retrospect, now that I'm older, I remember thinking my parents had no childhood. They were just adults.
Right.
Because I'm like, were you guys boring or what? Like, I have no idea.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
What the heck did you guys do our age? Because nothing sounds like it was amusing.
Right.
You guys have no idea what fun was.
Right.
But in retrospect, I see it now and go, it's just, you don't see it when you're that age. Mm-hmm. Even having a conversation. I was having a podcast here. This would have been boring when I was a kid. I'd be like, Dad, you guys talk to me. What do you guys talk about so much? Now, what do we say when adults? Hey, let's have some coffee and talk.
Right.
I mean, that's our let's
that's
put a mic, lights, and camera and talk. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah.
Adulting can be weird. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's cool.
Yeah.
There's a balance to everything.
I agree.
Well, anyways, thank you to that friend. Big shout out to Chewy.
Yeah,
I call him Chewy. His name is Jesus.
I don't know.
But Jesus sent that text to me a couple of days ago that inspired this talk.
Yeah. And hopefully we got, I don't know. I feel like we were all over the place at some
We were a little, I don't know if we helped you.
Maybe he's more confused than when
we didn't say this was a counseling podcast.
That's true.
So.
This is just us, like, what's worked for us or what.
But that's kind of cool. If you guys want to suggest topics, bring it on.
Yeah. Keep in mind, guys, we are not perfect. We
have no degrees.
Yeah. This is just what's
that's
worked
true.
for us.
We have no degrees on any topics we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is just out of our brain and our mind and experience and life.
Yeah.
Right, Linus?
Yeah.
No? You want to say something on the mic?
You want to say something?
Yeah.
No? No, he doesn't.
No. All right. Well, thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast.
Yes.
Thankfully, now we're in Apple, Google, and Anchor FM. Mm-hmm. Spotify podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. If you're watching our YouTube, ring the bell.
Yeah.
Or click on the bell.
Yeah.
So you get notifications of the future podcasts. We got a couple of cool ones coming up. We just recorded our first guest, which will be coming up soon too. We'll let you know. And we're excited about that. You guys should not miss that. And we'll let you know when that happens. In the meantime, be the best human you can be.
Yes.
Yeah?
Totally. Communicate
With
everyone.
Even if it is annoying. just do it.
Yeah.
It's better.
Yes.
Put it all out there. Mm-hmm. All right. On purpose talk at gmail.com if you don't have our text. So you can send us topics that you want to hear. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.
Take care.